I haven't got kids, but I just know you don't leave a knife lying around a baby.
Welcome to Groovy Movies. My name's Lily Austin.
And I'm James Brailsford. Hello.
Hello. How are you doing, James? How was your week?
I'm doing well, thanks. I've had a really busy but great week. I actually was back in the saddle doing the thing that I say I love but don't really do, which is directing for the first time in a long time.
Amazing.
Yeah.
What were you directing?
So, as long-term listeners may know, I lecture at a film school, and I am module lead on all 3 years editing classes, post-production classes. So, for my final year students, the idea is it's meant to get progressively more kind of not difficult, I guess, or challenging, I guess, kind of more complicated challenges as you go up the year ladder. And so, I wanted to direct something that all the edit students had involvement in from the script, so they all got to see the script. I told them the tone and the atmosphere of the piece, and then I said, what shots do you need as editors to make this sequence work? And so they all chipped in with ideas. I then took some of the ideas that I thought we could do most easily, or the ones that some of them were duplicate ideas as well, so I integrated them into my shot list. And I went on Thursday, I had an entirely student crew, student actors, and so we kind of we shot it, and I tried to get as many of the shots as possible, but we had a very strict deadline. It was 2 hours prep, 3 hours shoot, hard finish at 6, and so I had to drop a bunch of shots. We didn't get everything that we needed, but then again, that's what it's really like on a film shoot, is you're not going to get every single shot that you as an editor want, but you've kind of got to make what you've got work. So that was the whole scenario.
That's amazing. What a great experience for like a aspiring editor or member of a film crew to kind of have that insight.
Well, I hope so. I mean, that it's like that's the kind of thing I would have wanted when I was at my film school. That kind of challenge, because it's you're working directly with the person who's made it, so you can have feedback. It's you've had something. So the thing is, I'm trying to demonstrate to them how you should be working as an editor. You shouldn't just be waiting for the rushes to turn up at the end of the shoot. You should be there at the script, the kind of development stage, pre-production, kind of getting your views in there.
And is that the norm? Are you allowed to do that as an editor? Because I just always assumed they're kind of like a separate little entity that, as you said, you just throw some rushes at them and then they have to like piece it all together.
Well, I mean, I suspect that it is the norm on a lot of productions, but certainly I think as students, I think you'll learn the most if you get involved. So, and I think certain editors, I'm sure, with established directors like Thelma Schumacher, I'm sure gets to see Scorsese's scripts before he shoots them. So while it might not be the norm perhaps on a lot of jobs, I certainly think it's a very good exercise, to start thinking like that as an editor, and to not think that you should be waiting until the end of the production, because if you get a bunch of rushes that don't make any sense, and you could have just been at a pre-production meeting pointing out a few obvious things you need to get, that would make the film better. So yeah.
And were you happy with what you got?
Yeah, very happy, very happy. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Like I've been kind of buzzing since. So yeah, to say that we had no budget and we essentially had very little time, I think we got something very good for what is essentially an exercise. It felt suitably filmic and cinematic. I had a French student cinematographer. I had like a sound recordist. I had the whole thing. It was a lot of fun.
And can I ask, are we allowed to plug the film school that you work at? Do you think they would mind?
I don't know. Oh, the film school would love it. Yeah, I mean, they'll take the free press. It's Met Film Manchester.
Film Manchester. Just because it sounds brilliant, and if I was a young person wanting to get into film, babe, I'd want you to be my professor.
Oh, wow. Thank you very much. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, nice. That's what you were doing, James. I don't have quite as an exciting week to report on, but I was lucky enough to see Die My Love, which came out this past weekend. I think you saw it as well, James, right?
Yeah, I saw it just on Thursday night, I think.
Wow.
Was it? Oh, no, Friday. I saw it Friday.
Yes, Friday. I think it came out on Friday. Yeah. So pretty new release. So we're going to talk about that film. Very exciting. Really enjoyed the reunion of Katniss and Edward, as we're absolutely not calling it.
Oh my God! Oh yeah, sorry.
Jennifer Lawrence and Robert Pattinson, guys. Sorry, just to spell that out.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought about that team up. Yes, when I watched it, and we've also BFI is also celebrating melodramas at the moment, and they've got a UK-wide season called Too Much Melodrama on film.
Too much
So
melodrama on film, let's just say. There is never too much melodrama on
too much? Question mark. Melodrama on film. Yeah, and with that in mind, we were guests on another podcast, on the Ministry of Film podcast, and we discussed one of these classic, maybe the classic melodrama film, which is Brief Encounter. So we're going to play a bit of a highlight from the chat we had with them, and then you can go over, if you want to listen to the full thing, on their podcast.
But first, film news. So let's have a little box office update. James?
We seem to have Predator Badlands, which is topping the box office in the US and the UK. This has snuck up on me as far as how well it seems to be getting received and how much interest there is in it, because I haven't seen all the Predator movies, to be honest. In fact, the only one I'm pretty certain.
James.
but I did see the one that's before this one, which is called Prey, and I thought that was very good, actually. And so it's the same director. I think it's the same creative team of Prey who've made Badlands. So I don't know how connected they are, but I think it's in the same Predator universe.
Can I just ask, because I'm not affair with the Predator universe whatsoever. I know that there's Predator versus Alien. Now, is that part of the Alien franchise, or are they separate?
It's hazy because I haven't even seen those as well. But yeah, Alien and Predator were like 80s action horror franchises, and then in the late 90s, 2000, they kind of had these team ups for a few films. I think there's been 2 or 3 films where the Predator and the Aliens meet up, but most of the Predator films and most of the Alien films, they're completely separate. They don't cross over. It's just for a couple of crossover films.
Okay, interesting. Well, this is the 9th movie in the franchise, and it's doing very, very well. It's made 39 million this weekend in the US. We don't yet have the worldwide figures, but that's very good. That's apparently a record for the franchise.
Yeah, and also that it didn't cost too much to make, which is, I mean, I think it's Fox who owned this for some reason, which is now owned by Disney in a roundabout way. So anyway, they know that to make this kind of film, you can't really go way over 100 million, otherwise you've got no chance. So it looks like they're on track to actually make a film that makes money. Well done.
Yeah, because their budget was 105 million reportedly. So yeah, that's pretty good. They're basically hitting like a quarter of what they need to make to break even. So good for them.
So then we have in second place, kind of quite the polar opposite, is Regretting You. I guess if you don't fancy going to see Predator Badlands tearing shreds out of each other, then you go to Regretting You, and it's a romantic drama apparently. Okay, I don't know anything about this, Lily. Can you help me out here?
Well, look, okay, honestly, I've not seen the movie either, but what I do know about it is it's sort of a surprise sleeper hit. It's a romantic drama starring Alison Williams based on a Colleen Hoover novel, whose name you might recognize because she also wrote It Ends With Us, the novel that the very successful, if controversy-filled movie from last year starring Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni that came out. So I think it's very interesting that this is the second Colleen Hoover movie to do really, really well. It only had a $30 million budget, and it's already hit 36 million. It's been out a few weeks.
Yeah, and people are going to be happy with that.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it came out actually on Halloween weekend. And kind of like, I think in the UK in particular, was like top of the box office there. So very interesting counter programming. And as we talked about, no one wanted to have a big Halloween movie come out that weekend because of when Halloween fell, because it was coming out, because the Halloween was on a Friday. People were going to be at Halloween parties.
Right. Is that why? Yeah.
Everyone apparently was going and seeing a romantic drama instead. So I think it really does speak to the fact that quote unquote women's movies or like girls films really make money, and kind of similarly to Halloween movies, you can make a good movie for a relatively small budget, and the numbers kind of add up.
Because I guess for that kind of drama, you're not going into it expecting action spectacle. In fact, I suspect you'd be quite annoyed if your romantic drama suddenly had a big action chase set piece. So it's not. They don't have to cost that much money to make something that people will want to watch. Basically, it doesn't require the kind of effects and spectacle of other kind of films.
Yeah.
And then holding up the rear here, Begonia not doing so well then.
Yeah, it's kind of the opposite end of the spectrum, right? Begonia is For a indie movie and for a Yorgos Lanthimos film is actually a big budget. It's his most
Mm.
expensive film, $55 million. But unfortunately, it really is not doing well. It's not doing... They obviously thought that after Poor Things, he now had the kind of power to
Mm.
get audiences into the cinemas to see his movies. But unfortunately, it's only made 16.9 million as of
Yeah.
our recording on Sunday, which is a shame because I've seen it and I think it's his best movie. I absolutely loved it.
Mm.
I think it's really worth a watch, guys.
Okay, I'm looking forward to seeing it. Haven't had chance yet, but yeah, I mean, I guess maybe it's who knows what the full reasons are, but I suspect perhaps he's not a mass appeal director. Like I like Yorgos Lanthimos, but frankly, I've been wanting a few more years pause between each film. So I'm glad that he's having a few years off between this because for me, he's like a very rich dessert type director. I couldn't watch his films all the time, but I do appreciate them when I do watch them. So, maybe it was a bit of a push to try and get 100 million's worth of business through the doors. I don't know.
I think that's a very good kind of analogy. I like that. Okay, but moving on, we've got a new Disney update, James.
Oh yeah, Bob Iger's ruminating on what is I think the press are starting to ruminate on what will Bob Iger's legacy be when he leaves. Who's Bob Iger? Sorry, he's the CEO of Disney, and he was in charge for a number of years. He left. The person who took over was seen to not do a very good job, even though he was only enacting what Bob Iger had put in place because he's only in power for a couple of years, right?
Oh,
So after a couple of years, you're still just wrapping up what the previous guy's done. And so anyway, it didn't work out so well. It was the start of Disney's streaming service just losing billions and billions of dollars, which Bob Iger had set up. Anyway, Bob Iger, the guy gets ousted, and Bob Iger comes back after only 3 years of being away. So this is his like second go at being CEO. And all I can say is it's just gone even worse. I think his legacy will be the guy who finally toppled Disney.
Oh my God, which I found, yeah, we've talked about Disney a lot on this podcast, and I very much am aware of your position on things, but I found it very interesting reading the article that you linked to. We'll add it in the show notes. It's actually kind of plugging him being a guest on a podcast on The Rest is History.
Yeah.
But in the midst of that, he kind of said something about, how he really didn't want to fuck it up and that hopefully that's his legacy. And I was like, oh God, well, that's certainly what James thinks. But he seemed to think he hadn't. But maybe you just have to say that. But he definitely seemed to be like proud of the things they'd done.
He's proud of the things he's done. No problem. He's done things, and I'm sure he's proud of them. But what he hasn't done is brought home the money. He hasn't brought home that sweet, sweet cash, which Disney being like a huge corporation. It's all about the Benjamins. But yes. But yeah, I suspect as a CEO, you can't really say I fucked it up. I think my legacy is going to be like, what the hell? I suspect he knows that that's suicide. So I guess he's got to plug himself.
Welcome the rest of history. Let's do a tour of Disney, the land of Disneyland, the place that I fucked up. Yes. Well, okay. So moving on, we have a couple of fun kind of, I guess, upcoming production announcements. So this was actually brought to me by my mother-in-law. Shout out to Tiziana, who's a fan of the pod. She flagged that Robert Pattinson is confirmed as being on the new Dune 3. He talked about filming in the desert and how basically they almost all died from the harsh conditions out there, but luckily no one did. They've all survived, and we don't have much intel. We don't know who he's playing, but apparently he is a kind of main character in the film, in the third film. I was interested to read that a couple of cast members have been confirmed as playing Paul and I forget the name, the character of Zendaya, but their children have been confirmed as playing twins. And I just can't imagine Timothée Chalamet with children. He's so slight. It just doesn't compute for me. So I'll be interested to see how that kind of works out on screen.
No, I'm very, very much looking forward to this one. I mean, this is like Denis Villeneuve said is to him the Dune series is these three films. So the first two, part one and part two, were just adapting the first book. This is book number two, but it's part three, obviously, the way it's worked out. But I've read I think the first 4 or 5 books, and absolutely the quality goes downhill massively after book two. Book two is almost like an epilogue. Don't go expecting like the scale and the ambition of the first 2 films. It's very much almost like just kind of wrapping up Paul's story. So it's a small bit, but I'm very excited. Well, I've seen some behind the scenes. They're building big sets, practical sets, shooting on IMAX film this time because the previous 2 were shot on IMAX digital, which is not real IMAX. So they're doing a Christopher Nolan, so this will have the look and feel of one of Nolan's epics, which I'm all about. So yeah, very looking forward to seeing who Robert Pattinson is in this.
Yeah, absolutely. And in even more exciting news, Jennifer Lawrence this week has disclosed the fact that her and Emma Stone are producing a Miss Piggy movie. So Excellent Cadaver, which is Jennifer Lawrence's production company, which we will be mentioning later, have confirmed that they're making this movie. And I found it kind of amazing that we haven't had a standalone Miss Piggy movie, despite the many Muppets movies over the years. It's long overdue. I'm very excited about it. Apparently it was slightly inspired by cancel culture. The idea... What's the word I'm looking for?
The genesis, the germ?
Yes, the germ of the idea was imagine if Miss Piggy got cancelled, which I can honestly really imagine. But apparently that isn't actually what the film is about. That was just kind of the jumping off point, and then they kind of looked for a writer and got Emma Stone involved. And so they're still in the writing stage, but I'm very excited about that movie.
Of course. And what links Yoda from Star Wars to Miss Piggy?
They're both puppets.
They're both puppets, but more specifically...
Go on.
They're both voiced by Frank Oz. If you listen to Yoda's voice, then listen to Miss Piggy, especially when she's getting very shrill and she's kind of annoyed.
I was going to say, I can hear it, I can see it.
Yeah, it's Frank Oz doing both voices.
Cheryl mentioned that you're a writer.
I don't do that anymore.
Stuck for inspiration?
I'm stuck between wanting to do something and not wanting to do anything at all.
All right, so let's talk about Die, My Love. So we're both big Lynne Ramsay fans.
Yep, cards on the table. Big fan of Lynne Ramsay. Love all the stuff. Although, I haven't seen You Were Never Really There or Never Really
Here.
You
Were Never Really Here. I love that movie. I saw it in the cinema alone.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know why. It just I do know why. It's a great film, but it really, but I've seen many a good film, but that one in particular, something about, I was just so in the right zone to see that movie. And it's just, when I think about, I remember clearly being sat there watching that film. I really, really love it. And we need to talk about Kevin. It's just such an artful adaptation of that book. Like really it not just completely captures the feel of the novel, but then takes it and makes it such a visual and visceral viewing experience. It's just fantastic.
I mean, that's one thing I think is worth mentioning about Lynne Ramsay's background is actually she started off at the National School of Film and Television in Beaconsfield as a cinematography student, right? And in fact, I think after her first year studying cinematography, she tried to change the directing course and they wouldn't let her. And then when it got to her grad film, she wanted to direct it, not shoot it, and they wouldn't let her. So I think she actually went to maybe the Screen Scotland or some kind of Scottish funding agency, and she got the money to just make her own short film. And that short film, is it called The Gas Man? Went on to win the Palme d'Or for Best Short Film at Cannes, right? So yeah, that's her super origin. So the point is, when you watch a Lynne Ramsay film, there's a big emphasis on the visuals and they're getting story and mood from how it looks and the texture of the film.
So good, so good. So shall we talk about this Lynne Ramsay film? Let's just dive right in. So Die, My Love, as I've mentioned, stars Jennifer Lawrence and Robert Pattinson. God, Robin Pattinson also getting a couple of shout outs this episode. Amazing.
Oh, yeah. Got lots to say about Robert Pattinson.
And Jennifer Lawrence with doing Miss Piggy. They're sponsoring this episode. Well, This film, I found it very interesting because I saw online it being described as a black comedy drama. And I just don't, that doesn't ring true to me. It's not a Yorgos Lanthimos type of movie. What's amazing about it is that it is a study of basically a woman's breakdown. And there are some comedic moments in that because I think it really does artfully, skillfully, and very truthfully capture the realities of life, though not in a kind of, kitchen sink drama kind of way, as you've just talked about. It's like beautifully filmed and really, I think, captures in this like very beautiful way the kind of mood and feeling that you might feel if you're going through this. But what's great about it is that just as in life, there are comedic moments and all dark moments, really.
Yeah.
So you get that. But I wouldn't call it a comedy. I would say more
No. You'd be misselling it as a comedy. But I definitely like, because some of it is just so, the way she behaves and performs, you can't help but laugh at times. But the overall situation, and it's not funny. But yeah, I did find myself almost like kind of slight shocked laughter, I would say, about the situations that Jennifer Lawrence ends up in.
Yeah,
But,
definitely. So tell me what did you think of it?
Oh yeah, I mean, I loved it overall. Just very broad strokes. It was just, it's classic Lynne Ramsay. I'll be honest with you, I was a tiny bit running behind schedule getting there. So I had my hot dog and my pint of lager, and I was like going into the screen. I went in a hurry, but there was just a black screen, and in a cinema, there's rarely just a black screen. I was like, oh, the film's not showing. There must be nothing. They must have cancelled the screening. Went out, checked I was in the right screen. I was like, okay, and then I went in again, and this time I was like, oh no, it's an arty opening, isn't it? Where it's a black screen, and then slowly the sound gently fades in. I was like, oh God, this is like that time when I complained that the surround sound wasn't working in Zone of Interest. And actually, it was an artistic decision to not use a surround track. So anyway, after that being a bit of like, oh God, what an idiot. Of course, it's an artistic opening, not like, oh, the projector's not working. So I went in, sat down, locked completely in, so,
Yeah.
But so lots of long sustained shots, interesting shot imagery. It's not, you wouldn't say it was like deliberately stylized, but everything's very stylish. Everything, there's a lot of what I love, which is cinematic storytelling. So lots of bold images that really put you in the heads of the characters or make you feel what it must be like to be there.
Yeah, I mean, it feels, well, it's very delicately done because it clearly it is modern day. This is a contemporary story. And yet the costume design and the house that they live in, I kind of skipped over the plot.
Oh, sorry.
Because it's almost, there's not really too much to kind of say, but we follow is Jennifer Lawrence's character Grace and Robert Pattinson's character Jackson. They're a couple. We kind of first meet them looking around this house, and it becomes clear that it's Jackson's uncle's house, and he's died, and so they have the opportunity to move in here and have this place themselves. And it's a bit run down, and it's clearly in the middle of nowhere in the countryside. And we learn that they've come from New York, so they're moving out to the Midwest. And from there, you see as Grace clearly feels lonely, isolated, bored, because they have a child quite quickly, and they had these dreams of her writing and him making music, and instead he's away working and she's at home with her child, who she clearly loves and is a devoted mother, but everything around her in her life is making her struggle a lot. And so we watch as basically, as I said, as she kind of like has a mental breakdown. This very much fits into the glamorous woman having a nervous breakdown kind of genre of film. But yeah, it's interesting because I think it is stylized in the sense that it has a kind of 50s feel to it. There is this kind of slightly retro look to everything, but that doesn't feel like costume. And that isn't the setting it is, but there is this kind of vintage feel to it. I guess.
It's got I think, but deliberately, it's kind of got a timeless feel to it. They say if you want something to be timeless, look at the fashions and look at the things that have been around for 20, 30 years minimum and put those in your film. And this is a classic case of that. Like I say, it could have been made in the 50s, could have been made now, but everything's got so it means in 20 years' time, when you come to watch it again, it won't feel specifically of a certain time, which I love, I like, because that's a lot of work to do that.
Yeah, definitely. But then also the thing that I really love is it's not exactly stars, but the way they shoot the night scenes. I mean, I feel like you might be able to explain what exactly.
No, I was watching that, and I wasn't entirely sure. I think it was day for night because the skies look quite bright, so that's kind of classic. You shoot your nighttime scenes in the daytime, I think. But then it had a quality about it, so it did make me think. Because I know on the film Nope, they developed a new way of shooting nighttime scenes, which was combining an infrared camera, which gets really lots of detail at nighttime, with a regular 35mm film print, and kind of put them together. So maybe there was something going on there, but my initial take was this is day for night and it's being graded very well. I don't know. Yeah.
I was really fascinated watching it because it has this beautiful, it looks almost like it's become a black and white film, but there's like richer depth to it than that.
Because that's another thing about our vision at nighttime is our vision does become almost monochromatic. The less light there is, the less we're able to make out colours. So actually nighttime for human eyes is often quite monochromatic. And on film, they don't often do that. It'll often have a bit of colour in there. So I think there was an element of that as well. It was emulating that feel.
It definitely, I mean, you mentioned Zone of Interest. It definitely reminded me actually of those nighttime scenes in Zone of Interest.
Oh, yeah.
But I think in this case, it gave it sort of like dreamlike quality. It felt like I wasn't sure in those moments if she was actually awake or if she was dreaming. And I think that was very deliberate. Like, right, I think Lynne Ramsay wanted us to not be quite sure what's reality, what's in her mind, what's her dreams.
Yeah, which I loved. Because there's like a neighbour who's like this mysterious kind of he drives a motorcycle, got a helmet on. So and you are like, is this a real person? Is this invented?
Yes. Is this a fantasy? Is it a dream? Or is he there?
Yeah. So which I love. I love all that kind of stuff. So yeah. But I will say though, Lily, it was quite surprising to me. This was the most amount of walkouts of any film I've been to after Salo.
What?
So we had in total, I know, I didn't think it was a walkout kind of movie myself. I was loving it, but 3 people left. It was 2 people as they were obviously there in a couple, and then about half an hour before the end, another person by themselves. So 3 walkouts.
Oh God, that's really depressing. I mean, I sort of can understand that because, let's not shy away from it. It's definitely, it is quite a sort of harrowing, I don't know how about, maybe harrowing is too strong a word, but it's hard. It's a hard watch in places. Jennifer Lawrence is amazing at capturing a mental breakdown. I have to say that. Like, she does really takes it to like these very extreme places, and you can really see how much she's struggling, and it can be hard to watch at times. But because she's not like, I listened to an interview with Lynne Ramsay. I'll link it in the show notes, where she talked about how it was very important to her that the character not be. She wanted a character who had a lot of strength and energy and vibrancy and was like unapologetic and not self-pitying, and just to kind of she wanted her to be free, really. And you do see that in this character. She is like not happy, but she has this kind of, there are these moments where she's bored and she's pretending to be a cat crawling around on the ground, and she's licking the window, and takes off her clothes, and the big part of the story is how much she wants to have sex with Jackson, and he's withholding and potentially cheating on her, though it's kind of ambiguous about that. But I really love that, because I feel like I don't think I've seen that much, this particular kind of character, and it felt very true to me and really powerful, because I feel like it's a known thing, postnatal depression. That's like, I feel like it's not necessarily seen a lot, but we hear about it. But actually what this really captures is not just that, but all the elements that can make you feel like you're, falling apart. It's not simply that having a child, it's isolation. Yeah. It's like disconnection from your partner. It's not having a community around you. It's your own like desires to be creative that you can't fulfill, all these different things. And I feel like it really captured all those things beautifully in such a like vivacious character that I absolutely loved being with her. So it's kind of that, I guess, is a surprise that people would walk out, because it could be a hard watch at times, but I was so kind of sort of in love with her as a character and as a person that I was like there with her the whole way through.
Oh yes, same here. I was totally locked into her journey. I love the visual storytelling. I love the first time when you're like, oh right, because I wasn't actually sure what the film was about, which I like as well. I like just kind of
Yeah, same.
not having it too spoiled. So I wasn't sure where it was going. And obviously, the first indication for me was when she has the baby and she's kind of crawling around on her hands and knees. I didn't know if she was a cat or a tiger or whatever was going on there. But then she had a knife with her and she just leaves the knife next to the baby. Nobody comments on it. It's not like the other character picks it up and goes, "What are you doing?" It's like, but as an audience member, you immediately know that I haven't got kids, but I just know you don't leave a knife lying around a baby. So you're you're locked.
And so close. Yeah, it's like she has it
Yeah.
right there next to her.
And you are, and in the back of my head, oh God, is something going to happen with it? Nothing happens with it, but it's cluing in the audience even before any of the other characters that something's not quite right here. That we're probably exploring postnatal depression.
Yes. I think that as well with Lynne Ramsay, what I really love is that I know when I see something like that, like her holding the knife, I know that is not Chekhov's knife. There may be nothing that comes of it. And I really love that because, so many times it's obvious things are being keyed up in a film. Like, we're going to come back to that. Something's going to happen with that. And in a way that can kind of be fun sometimes, right? To be like looking out for these little signs and stuff. But I really love that in her films, not necessarily, sometimes not. This is very much just a study of a couple. It's not plotting those points in that way. I don't want to spoil it, but I have to say, though, I wasn't completely convinced by the ending. I don't think it looked amazing. And I felt, I don't know how it was the best way to wrap up a film like this. But I feel like what I really loved was the music in the film, and particularly that the use of that John Prine song, In Spite of Ourselves. I actually already knew and love that song, and it does actually, I associate it with a friend of mine and her now ex-boyfriend, because they used to play it and it seemed to really typifying their relationship quite well. So it's kind of interesting seeing it used in this movie, and I felt like when that song came back in the car towards the end, that felt like, oh, okay, this is probably going to be where we end, and that's a great ending. And then we kind of had this additional scene, and I was like, maybe it would have been too predictable an ending to leave it there with the last thing, and she wanted some kind of bigger, more dramatic close, but I wasn't totally convinced by that, I have to say.
I was thinking, I'm not sure how you can wrap this up. So it was poetic for me. I was like, it was okay. I did.
Yeah, we're talking in such vague terms, so it's not very satisfying.
Yeah, I know.
But I really don't want to spoil it, guys.
It certainly felt. It felt like, I don't know, it felt like that's where the film was heading, especially from the very start of it when you see the opening sequence. But yeah, I mean, just big I mean, it's definitely Jennifer Lawrence's film. We're following her character. It's definitely from her point of view, which is a big thing I'm kind of working on with my L6 students at the moment in editing, is how do we get point of view across in film? It's very much but shout out to Robert Pattinson. I'm a big fan of his because I've not seen any of the Twilight films, but I know that's what made his name and made him a star as a lead actor. But he's just so good at being like, I know second fiddle sounds kind of like a demeaning term, but he's so good at not having the limelight in a film, but also being an incredible actor. So the film's not about him, but the performance is just as good as what Jennifer Lawrence is doing, even though it's not circling him, but he gives it everything. And I noticed that that's what he does in a lot of films at the moment. So I'm sure in June he's not going to have the lead role. He'll be a supporting character, but he's essentially got that lead actor energy, but he likes doing supporting roles. I think he's great in the Lost City of Z, by the way. Oh, so good in that.
I've never seen that, but yeah, I agree. I think he is very good at playing against Jennifer Lawrence. Their kind of chemistry is amazing, even, when as most of it, they're at odds, but it really works. They work together so well. And yeah, it absolutely is Jennifer Lawrence's film, even with the fact that, to mention her production company, Excellent Cadaver again, which, by the way, I mean, great name. Great name. They also produced this film. It was actually Martin Scorsese who showed Jennifer Lawrence the novel that this is based on, called Die, My Love by Ariana Harowitz. And she and Jennifer Lawrence loved it and emailed Lynne Ramsay, who basically ghosted her initially, and Jennifer just kept emailing until finally Ramsay kind of gave in and was like, okay, I'll do it, because initially she kind of had some misgivings, like, well, I've maybe done similar films to this before. But then in the end, she's like, okay, yes, I'll do it, but I have to make it my own. You know, you have to trust me and go with me. And what a fantastic movie. So I'm kind of impressed with Jennifer Lawrence. I'm like, this is cool that she's making these kinds of films, basically, clearly making opportunities for her to really play interesting parts.
Yeah. Which is, I think it's a thing that does happen in Hollywood, is like you make your own production companies, you basically develop your own projects for you to give yourself good parts. Otherwise, you know, I'm sure she doesn't want to reprise Katniss Everdeen in 20 years' time. I think she wants to kind of grow her career.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, it seems highly likely she'll probably get an Oscar nomination for this role, which echoes her part in Silver Linings Playbook, another film where she is kind of a woman on the edge. And, you know, on the one hand, I was kind of thinking, does this mean that, like, basically we need to see women having breakdowns to be, like, Oscar worthy? But then, I kind of think, but yeah, why not? Like, you know, we've struggled over the years to get interesting parts for women. They are usually second fiddle to a man. And these sorts of stories, I think, are important to tell. So in a way, I don't really mind. I don't mind. And I hope she does get a nomination for that, because I do think it's a really brilliant part and a brilliant character. And I really, loved seeing someone struggling with their mental health, but with still so much vibrancy. You know, I think, like, this isn't a depressing film, even though it is like a
film about postnatal depression, but it's not depressing. But
that's the thing. I don't think it's just postnatal depression. I think there's a lot more to it than that. And not to say that that's, you know, that is a huge thing, but I think it shows a real kind of tapestry of emotions and struggles she's going through, and I think that kind of complexity is really wonderful to see on film. So I'm fine with it. I mean, I thought it was interesting. It ties in very nicely with our next kind of segment, because I think this film very much fits into the genre of the melodrama. It feels to be like part of that history. You know, we've kind of got to this point because the whole kind of, what's so wonderful about the melodrama was it was really a space to, like, take seriously women's emotions and their kind of interior lives. You know, this is the genre where we follow women, what's going on with them. They're very much the subject, like you said. And as we'll talk about when we discuss Brief Encounter, that's absolutely part of these kinds of films. So it was, I'm very happy that this film is out and it's part of a great legacy, you know.
Yeah, it's another great Lynne Ramsay film that I'm sure rewards repeat viewing.
So now for our special treat. So we were lucky enough to be invited on The Ministry of Film, a brilliant podcast hosted by Carolina Saludas and Robin McGee, where they talk about the arts and politics of classic films.
And seeing as though the BFI is currently showing having a melodrama season, not only in London, but also across partner venues around the UK, including some in Manchester, as part of that season, they're reissuing Brief Encounter because it's the 80th anniversary of the film. So we thought it's one of the best known British melodramas. So we all sat around, the four of us assembled, to have a chat about it.
I'm a happily married woman. Or rather, I was until a few weeks ago. This is my whole world. And it's enough. Or rather, it was until a few weeks ago.
I suppose, like most of us listening, I would have had like a moment where we've just been gripped, right? But like that kind of emotion. And it is like, it does hit you like a train. So I was texting Robin last night, watched it again. I've seen this film a million times. And it's just every time it just hits me like a freight train. And I was just there sobbing into my sofa. So,
when did you both first watch the movie?
Well, I was actually rather like James in that I thought that I'd watched it for years, and I particularly liked David Lean as well. So I particularly liked Dr. Zhivago and Lawrence of Arabia, his two great epics. And I always had done, and I just assumed I'd seen it. And then I basically watched it at the start of last year, and I realised I actually hadn't seen it. And I would say, obviously, it's this incredible emotional experience. I think it's maybe the best romance I've ever seen. I can't really think of a better one. It just hits you very hard in all of the obvious places that you'd expect for a really great romantic film.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was surprised that, as much as obviously it's a product of its time and it's about kind of the middle class, the stiff upper lip, let's call it, the kind of British way of addressing our love lives. But so even though it's kind of, of its time from that, oh my God, how I could totally relate to the situations and how the emotions, you totally got it. And it was like, even though they're a person from another time, I totally get it. I totally get where they're coming from. And I was really, really much more than I expected to be, with Laura on her journey. And I was quite surprised as well that it's from her perspective. I didn't realise that the point of view is it's her story. I think I just thought it's two people meeting a railway station and they kind of, it's like more objective. I didn't realise how subjective it was.
Absolutely. It's perfect for being so singularly from one person's point of view. So you hear her inner monologue through the film and it makes it so personal because she's talking in the second person as well, which is so effective. So, she's got the lady in front of her who she has met, who has interrupted the final moment that she has with Alec. And at one point she says, I hate you. I wish you stopped talking. I wish you were dead. Oh no, I didn't mean that. That was really unkind.
I'm a good person.
Yeah, it's so good because you're like, we've all thought that. We've all thought just like, I wish you would just like go away and like fuck off. but so it feels so raw, and I think it's better for the fact that it is just her point of view. Usually one of us will do a little bit of a summary. So I don't know if you guys want to do it or Robin's great.
No, we'll leave you to do the summary. We're quite happy.
The summary is very simple. It's about 90 minutes. A woman called Laura, very ordinary middle-class woman in Britain. It's meant to be before the war, supposedly, but it came out in 1945. She is basically just in a train station and she gets talking to this guy, and even though she's married with kids, they end up falling very much in love. They say to each other that they love each other. Their affair grows more and more intense. They effectively go on dates. It's really a date movie. The scenes are based around these sort of dates that they have. She ultimately he ends it, and he ends it by moving to South Africa.
Although she's the one that says this can't continue. So he's like, okay, well, I've been offered a job in Johannesburg, so I'm just gonna go.
Yeah, it's fair that you could question who is ending it, but basically, yes, and it sort of culminates with them they're about to like sleep with each other, and then they don't, and it gets interrupted, and there's all kinds of there are ways in which it eventually becomes apparent that it just won't work. She then goes home to her husband and cries, but doesn't tell him what's happened. He maybe suspects what's going on. He also, however, isn't told, but the film itself has been told as if it's her explaining to him what's going on.
Confessing
it.
Yeah.
So it's all been, as we were just saying, it's all been done through her confession, but the confession that maybe doesn't actually happen. Let's talk about that in a minute.
I was just, it is such a focused story, right? It is just this couple and their love story, and they both have partners. But I love the fact that, like you mentioned, that you don't meet Alec's wife, and because we're focused so much on, it's completely Laura's perspective on things, and yeah, it's very much just the two of them over, I think it's like 6 weeks at most, right, that they've spent together. They really haven't spent much time together at all. And it's it is the quintessential melodrama because it's incredibly emotional, all-encompassing affair. But they never even sleep together. They probably only have like 4 kisses or something during the film.
And I love it. They're proper embraces as well. They're passionate. They grab hold of each other as they're kissing. Like
the classic 40s snog where they're like,
yes,
clearly their mouths are like completely closed, but they're just like glued to each other. I'm always happy to see that.
It must have been quite painful to do. Like, someone's hurting their teeth there. But at the same time, it's so romantic. Dare I say, it is a film that has almost no sex, or even it's kind of, very PG-12.
Very chaste, I think you would say, wouldn't you? Very chaste.
But it's quite erotic. They kiss under the passageway under the train, and it's so erotic. And I think that's why the film is perfect for doing what drama is meant to do, right? Which is the tension between two things, the thing that you want, the thing that you cannot have. And there's the third, which is is this idea of duty. This film is all about duty and yearning. So it's like, it's not that she is impeded by the world to do this. Like, she could have sex with him, she could leave her husband, but she has this higher sense of duty towards her husband and her kids, and she has this duty to like her own morality. Like, she is the moral core of this film. We talked recently about Alien and how like Sigourney Weaver is like the moral core of the film. I think Laura is the same. Like, she is at every turn trying to do the right thing, whereas Alec Harvey, the Trevor Howard character, is just like, no, have sex with me.
Well, he's possibly, I think, on my second watch of it this week, I really got the sense that he was a bit of a baddie. Really, I'm not saying that he was lying when he said that he loved her or anything like that, but he really pushed it at the start, and he obviously knew what he was doing. And I think he didn't come away very well.
Yes, he is the initiator. I also think it might have just been partly the casting, because I feel like Trevor Howard has a slightly creepy energy, if I'm honest with you. So I don't know if that's... it could have felt differently with someone else. But you're right, he completely initiated it. But there's also a gender dynamic there, right? Because, I mean, the consequences for a woman who leaves her family and her children is so much more significant. I don't know if he ever mentions whether or not he has kids.
He does, I think.
He does. He has 2 boys.
Oh, okay, fine. All right, fine. But it's still, I feel like the consequence is somewhat less severe.
Of course.
And that's the thing. I actually think that it's less about duty to her husband and her children.
Yeah.
It's duty to her class, right? Like, there's such a strong theme of the morality around certain classes. You have this like working class couple at the cafe that are kind of this sort of like almost comedic kind of break from the main drama, and they do seem to be a kind of, look, this is what you could be like if you weren't so buttoned up and repressed.
Yeah.
If you were working class, you could feel a bit more free to flirt with people and have fun.
Yeah, like, no one's gonna expect any more of them, but everyone expects more of Laura and her position. I also thought it has to have been on purpose. Trevor Howard was not a famous actor at the time. There was apparently someone else who was...
Roger Livesey. They wanted him,
Yes.
and of course he plays not quite the lead, he's the second lead in A Matter of Life and Death. He was in Powell and Pressburger films. I think he's in the Red
good.
Shoes as well, is he? But you know, he was quite a star around that era. But I think he would have played that character much less, like you say, probably a bit straighter and safer. He wouldn't have seemed as much as a bad influence, I reckon, if he'd have played the part.
I find it really fascinating that David Lean picked him specifically. So Trevor Howard, apparently, this is thanks to a BBC programme about the film, apparently he was discharged from the army during World War II. They were running low on people of that character because he had psychopathic tendencies. Like, this man was, he was not only a big drinker and big personality on set, but there was something really dark, and there's that kind of like creepiness, as you say, maybe, to be honest, that cruelty. Like, he's just got the look of a guy who could shoot someone, to be honest. So to me, watching it this time, and it's interesting, right? I watched it first when I was like in my 20s, completely fell in love with both of the characters, did not pick up at all on him being a bit creepy because, you know, girl in your 20s. And then this time I was like, oof, I can believe him towards the end. I think towards the end it's more believable. And the film is telling you he's not done this before, because he brings her to his mate's house, and that's not happened before, right? The friend says something like, we've known each other for years, and there's no mention of like, oh, you are that guy. It doesn't. So the film is supposed to tell us, yeah, this is the first time this guy really has fallen head over heels. But the first half of the film, when he goes, oh, I know you're not a musician, you're much too uncomplicated, and then says something really personal about her, that you're like, you don't know this woman. It's the first time you guys have lunch together. This is love bombing. This is like toxic. This is just like the definition of like anything on Instagram that you've seen being like, step away from this man. This is just not good for
red
you.
flags. How many more red flags does she need? Right? Oh my God, have we uncovered he's a secret sociopath in a brief encounter?
Yeah, that's true. That's definitely, I feel like in our kind of cultural recollection of this film as being one of the great romances, the great British movies, it's not generally considered to be a film about love bombing. But with modern eyes, with 25 eyes, I'm like, actually, yeah, you're right. It is like if they had actually taken it to the next level and tried to have a full-on affair, I'm sure he would have broken her heart and left
I mean,
her.
he kind of does.
I don't think he has the same dilemma in his head that she has during those few weeks.
I think, though, that's partly, again, I would sort of argue that you don't see his wife or kids, as we said. And I would say that, maybe actually his marriage is much more broken. I mean, when I say much more broken, I mean, the big take that I sort of had, particularly on this second viewing of it, was, in a sense, she kind of gets the guy. I'm semi-joking. Really, I found very much that the last shot of the film is this very stereotypical one of a sort of couple embracing with like music swelling, which would have been
Laura and her husband,
Fred. And this would have been very conventionally, like very well understood at the time that was like how you'd end like a romantic film. It's done through this confession to him. She actually says that she doesn't want to hurt him by telling him about it. So the confession is not real. But also I think there's a really interesting scene around in the middle where she says about, oh, I met this nice doctor, we should have him over for lunch, where she's kind of trying to make it into just like a friendship, maybe, like, difficult to say.
She's trying to confess to him.
Yeah, and she's trying to confess to him as well. And he's like, oh yes, well, that's fine, you do that, and I'm sure he's nice or whatever. And I think that he knows she's not going to actually leave me. I think the implication there is a bit of that. But I also think that she keeps saying, oh, well, I'm a happily married woman. I want that stability and so on. And okay, yes, obviously it's very much dodgy. Like, she is, very constrained by her gender and her class situation. So I'm not saying that that's like necessarily a real reflection of what she wants. But at the same time, I kind of feel that he's a bit of this exciting thing, and that actually, she quite likes her life with her husband and her kids.
That she makes a choice.
I don't know. I mean, she seems pretty bummed out about it. I don't know, like at the start of the film.
She does say, I want to die.
And she mentions she wishes she had a friend she could talk to about this, right? She just has that annoying woman.
She's so lonely,
she's a lonely woman who spends her Thursdays on her own, every Thursday, going to do the shop and then treating herself to the cinema alone. And she's a woman who clearly has like intellectual pursuits. She's well read, but she's given pocket money by her husband to fill her Thursday. I feel like her life is pretty empty. So it may not be that this guy, it's all about the guy. But I think that she's just saying the thing that on paper, I'm happily married. I'm one of the lucky ones. My life is pretty good. I have children. I have a husband. I should be grateful for these things. He has a good job. I mean, the fact that she has that kind of fantasy towards the end about what she could do if she runs away with
That's really funny.
Alec and all the places they could go. It's amazing, right? Because, I mean, that to me feels quite relatable, because I feel like sometimes you meet someone that in your fantasy is going to be the perfect person, and then through them you'll get to do all the things you dream of doing. Anything is possible if this person is in my life. And obviously then the reality comes into play again, and you're like, okay, no, actually it's not going to work out that way. It's not going to be that simple. And she can't break with convention. I can't cause a scandal. And also probably she does know that really she's not going to do that with him. He probably isn't the fantasy that she imagines.
I suppose what I kept thinking, what makes this film so universal? There have been a lot of stories. David Lean actually has made a very similar film to this. He made a film with his second wife, Anne Todd.
He had 6 wives. We might talk about this.
Second or fourth?
We're going to talk about it. But so he made a very similar film where the lover, the ex-lover, is also Trevor Howard. So clearly he saw something in him that connected with him. And that film doesn't work. It doesn't work anywhere near as well. She also kind of almost tries to commit suicide at the end. She doesn't go with it, and she stays with her husband. So he basically made the same film once over, but this is the one that lives on. And I think there are 2 things you can hang this on. Celia Johnson is incredible. Like, unbelievable performance. Just the way that you can see in her face, just completely torn by having to make these decisions. The internal monologue is made so alive and dynamic by her. Just the tightness of the story works really well. And I suppose this dichotomy of the boring man who makes you laugh, who will give you a great life and will give you stability, and then the exciting guy that you will fall madly in love with almost instantly, but will be bad for you.
Yeah.
It has been explored in melodrama, in rom-coms, since time immemorial. I think, especially for women, right? Like, there's a little bit of a sense in very traditional, very cis hetero situations where you're like, yeah, in theory, Celia Johnson's a beautiful woman. She could choose to have any and all of these things in theory, but she chooses the man who makes her laugh. And I think it's interesting, right? Because conventions at the time were changing. And it's interesting when you hear historians talk about this film. It didn't actually do very well when they did test screenings, because people were like, first of all, why are you not having sex? Like, everyone's been having sex during the war. Like, everyone's been cheating on their partner. Like, get on with it.
Apparently
Really
that
good
was
point.
changed from the stage play, where it's much more heavily explicit that they did sleep together, or they do spend the night together. But for the film,
Oh, I read that it was ambiguous.
oh, sorry, ambiguous. What I read.
So that it's not that they leave that open-ended with the play, but with this they wanted to make it categorical.
Exactly.
That no.
And apparently people were like, in the cards, when you do test screenings, people leave like little cards with comments, and they were like, I'm frustrated. I don't understand. Why did they not have sex?
I would argue that
ridiculous.
this is. I would argue this is a really important part of its appeal, actually, because we've said how it's erotic. It's kind of an erotic suspense film, and the fact that there is this erotic suspense, effectively, as to will or won't they do it throughout, is really helpful to like making the drama. I mean, one thing that's so great about it is the drama is just like full on the whole time, the emotional drama and the story. And I think this really, really adds to that.
Yeah, it's like when we said with Trainspotting, you could only really do 90 minutes of it because it would just
It'd be too intense.
It would too intense.
That's absolutely true.
This film is so intense.
The plotting was excellent. Like that's what clued me into like I haven't seen this film before. I thought it was going to kind of start in a linear fashion, and then almost from the get go you realise, wait, she's already devastated. And what a great way to start it as well. You see the effect that whatever's happened to her has had on her. That's how we meet the character. So we can see she's completely like whatever she's gone through has taken everything out of her, and then you go back and tell the story of how she got there. Just beautiful writing. Like I do that was something that I hadn't anticipated, was the way that the story would be told. And for me, the thing that made me really connect with Laura is she just seems very, very lonely, and she can't express herself. That's the other thing, isn't it? Is that she can't say who she does or doesn't love. She can't do what she wants to do because that's just not allowed to say. It's not a choice for her. So hearing this monologue of this, she's got an inner life that's really rich, and yet she has to be a mother for the kids in the wedding, the marriage that they've got, and it's just all very stifling. I really related to a character who just seems like they can't express themselves.
For me, it was that I think the casting is interesting because these weren't Hollywood stars they're both attractive people, but they're not Sophia Loren and,
they did a remake.
and Tim Burton, who I mentioned because apparently I read that there was a remake in 1974, which did terribly. It did not work at all. And I think a big part of that is the fact that what really makes the film work is that they do seem like very normal people. And I think that is a big part of what's great about it, is that you're watching it and thinking that, it's kind of one of the beautiful things about life, and also the most painful things, that it's a very, very normal thing to like fall for someone and feel these strong, strong emotions and not be able to do what you want with those emotions.
This film is perfect because it connects with anyone in society, right? Like yes, they are bound by the class sort of morality, and that makes for really good tension, but it's also that feeling is so universal, and it is so well done in the film in that the world continues around them. The world does not care.
The world doesn't care. I love that theme.
Yeah.
There was also, by the way, there's a line which Laura says, which I think really, it's like the one line that kind of almost summarizes the film's attitude to this, which is, I've fallen in love. I'm an ordinary woman. I didn't think such violent things could happen to ordinary people. So first of all, she's saying it's a violent thing, bad, especially in the context that people would have been watching this initially. But also so she's talking about the hurt caused by it, but also just like, wow, even an ordinary person, as you say, Lily, even an ordinary person can just have this insane, amazing thing that takes over their lives, but even though the rest of the world goes on. And the film is just absolutely incredible at capturing that feeling and like lots of other feelings of sort of like how romantic love appears. And this is why I would say it's so amazing, is just how good it is at bringing all that together.
We're neither of us free to love each other. There's too much in the way. There's still time. If we control ourselves and behave like sensible human beings.
That was James and me talking with Carolina Sluders and Robin McGee on the fantastic podcast, The Ministry of Film. If you want to hear the full conversation, it drops this Thursday, so subscribe to The Ministry of Film wherever you get your podcasts.
And the BFI season, Too Much, Melodrama on Film, continues until December. I believe there are still a couple of tickets left for the screening of Brief Encounter, which is on the 16th of November. But take a look at the BFI's website for all the screening details. There are lots and lots of brilliant films being shown.
So now to finish, James, do you have a screen recommendation?
I do, and I thought for once I'd bring things near to where I live, which is Manchester. We have a cinema called the Cultplex that's been going for about 3 or 4 years now, I think, and it's an indie cinema in Manchester with very strong cult, alternative and underground kind of screenings and a general that kind of vibe. So, for example, just looking at the website, they've got a Twin Peaks: The Return, like I think they're screening the whole series.
Oh, amazing! That's so cool.
They're showing Secretary.
Guys,
Hedwig and the Angry Inch, Double Indemnity. You know, they've got a lot of different types of films on. So it's a bit giving me kind of Prince Charles cinema vibes, but here in Manchester.
Oh my God, I love it. Okay, next time I come to visit, let's go. Because you've already piqued my interest. Secretary, what a great, sexy movie. And I've never actually seen Hedwig and the Angry Inch, but I know that it's really beloved as like a classic cult movie.
Absolutely. So if you want to support independent cinema and you're around the Manchester area, I strongly recommend a Cultplex in Manchester.
All right. Well, guys, that's it for another episode of Groovy Movies. Thanks so much for listening.
And if you could find your way to leaving us a like or a review, it all helps get the podcast out to a larger audience.
So we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Groovy Movies is produced and edited by us, Lily Austin and James Brailsford. And James also produced the theme music.
Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Groovy Movies Pod or email us groovymoviespod@gmail.com.
For more information about the films discussed, check out the show notes.